Let's start with Governor McDonnell's proclamation and his apology. MSNBC's analyst Karen Finney's a Democratic strategist and a great niece of General Robert E. Lee. And MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan is a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and of course a very close Scotch-Irish fan of Stonewall Jackson. So here we have it. I don't think we need to give you your uniforms. I think you know what side you're on this one. I'm talking to you, Karen, although you are a proud heir to the Confederacy, one could say. Here's part of the governor's apology. Quote, the failure to include any reference to slavery in that proclamation declaring Confederate History Month, and for that I apologize to any fellow Virginian who has been offended or disappointed. The Confederate History Month proclamation issued was solely intended to promote the study of our history, encourage tourism, and recognize Virginia's unique role in the story of America. What kind of African-American tourist would want to celebrate Confederate History Month, Pat? Why would, or is this just for white tourists? I mean, it's push for tourism.
It's 150th anniversary.
Yeah, but why would it encourage white people to come in and celebrate the Confederacy, or black people as well?
Virginia was part of the Old South, the Confederacy, Chris, but there's a lot of misinformation on. Virginia did not secede over slavery. Virginia stayed in the Union when Lincoln was elected. Virginia stayed in the Union at the time of Fort Sumter. It was still in the Union. What took them out of the Union was when Abraham Lincoln said, we want 75,000 volunteers, your militia and your soldiers in Virginia to attack the Deep South and bring them back into the Union. They said, we're not going to kill our kinsmen. That's how Virginia left the Union.
So they, in other words, they refused to take sides with the Union against the rebels.
They refused to send their sons to kill their kinfolk.
No, to bring back the Union.
To kill their kinfolk and bring it back.
Okay, I think that's a technical point, because Virginia had slavery, believed in slavery, and would have kept it had there not been a Civil War.
Chris, wait a minute. There were 8 slave states in the Union at the time of Fort Sumter, and 7 in the Confederacy.
Right.
But, gentlemen, that's not the point, though.
The point of the Civil War was slavery. Let's not get confused.
No, but the point today is that Bob McDonnell missed an important opportunity. I mean, I'm also a proud great-great-granddaughter of slaves, and we were owned by the Finneys of Virginia, by the way. And the point is, that is an American story. There is a broader American story. If we're going to celebrate our history, then let's tell the whole story. Let's tell the whole history. Let's celebrate the whole history. Let's not pick and choose the facts that we like and that we don't like.
Well, this is the facts that I think you like, Pat. This is from your battle flag organization, the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Sure.
Quote, the citizen soldiers who fought for the Confederacy personified the best qualities of America. The preservation of liberty and freedom was the motivating factor in the South's decision to fight the Second American Revolution. The preservation of liberty and freedom was the motivating factor in the South's decision to fight the Second American Revolution. What's that mean?
Oh,
I don't get it. I don't understand what it means. How can you say you're for liberty and freedom?
To you. Look, I had a great-grandfather that died at Vicksburg. I had another one that was killed in the captured in the Battle of Atlanta by Sherman, who wanted to burn the city and committed atrocities all the way to the sea. They wanted to be as independent of the American Union as the founding fathers, Jefferson,
For what
Washington.
purpose?
They wanted to be free. Why did Jefferson?
So they could keep slaves.
But why did Jefferson want to keep slaves? Washington wanted to keep slaves. 5 of your first...
600,000 Americans were dead because you guys wanted to keep slaves.
That is complete nonsense, Chris. Your founding fathers had slaves.
I know.
5 of your top 7...
That was wrong.
Was that why they wanted to be free of non-slave England?
Lincoln was elected in 1860. Immediately the South began to secede over what issue?
They began to secede over the fact Lincoln was elected, the Republican Party was in power. Lincoln didn't get a single electoral vote in the South. They wanted out of the Union.
Why?
Like the founding fathers wanted out of Britain.
What was the issue?
So, the issue
was it voting
depends
rights?
on it.
Was it a slow postal service?
For
what was the issue?
Virginia,
was it crops?
They didn't want to kill their own kinfolk.
The issue, Pat,
that's Virginia's issue.
Well, let's get started. The secessionist movement began over the issue of slavery. That's all I'm asking. Tell me I'm wrong.
Here's where you're wrong. Lincoln's first inaugural offered to make slavery permanent. He offered to help run down fugitive slaves if the seceding states came back.
The issue was the expansion of slavery into the territories. Lincoln ran on that.
No, he held to that.
That's right. It scared the hell out of the Confederacy. They formed the Confederacy. They seceded from the Union. Lincoln said, you're not going to escape from the Union. The Union's indissoluble, you're sticking with us, and your side said, let's fight.
Someone said, for God's sakes, let's hear both sides.
Let's not re-adjudicate the Civil War. Shall
well,
we
that's
not?
exactly what's going on here.
I
the governor of
understand that,
Virginia
but we
wants to
don't need to
proclaim the glories of the Confederacy without mentioning the issue upon which it was
That's
founded.
exactly right.
I think that's an oversight, not a mistake.
I think it's
and
worse
by the
than
way,
an
many
oversight.
people believe that he did this to solidify his base and perhaps win himself a place on the ticket next time around as the conservative counterpoint to Mitt Romney, whose political philosophy is indecipherable.
Anytime you're talking about states' rights, right? I mean, that phrase comes from those who were defenders of slavery. I mean, there are certain code words. We all know what they mean, and words do matter.
Right.
Again, I think Bob McDonnell, this is a pattern we've actually seen before, though,
right.
where, they say something stupid, they try to fix it, and then actually they end up sort of inflaming progressives and conservatives. I think in this instance,
right.
Again, McDonnell missed a really important point. Now, politically speaking, he went back and checked the boxes and made the corrections and made the phone calls. But I think there's more going on here in terms of this idea of the sovereignty of a state. I mean, we've heard that politically over the last couple of weeks, Pat.
I know where.
And there's more going on here, though, politically. That is a very specific tactic out of the Rove playbook designed to incite people's anger when you talk about states' rights and sovereignty. You know exactly what you're doing.
All right, let's talk states' rights and nullification. You know where they came from? The Kentucky and Virginia resolutions written by Jefferson and Madison, who wanted to nullify Adams's law, the Alien and Sedition Acts. They said, you don't have to obey those laws. That's where these ideas came from.
But ultimately, the Supreme Court of the United States of America decided that the prevalencia of the federal government.
Don't deny the truth of this history.
And don't deny all of it, is my point.
Well, we're not.
Why are Republicans in the South like Rick Perry talking secession? Why is his opponent in the primary down there, Medina? Why was she talking about nullification and interposition? Why is Bill McCollum running for governor down there as Attorney General talking about preventing the invasion and the sovereignty of his state? This is the lingo, as you point out, Karen, of the Civil War fight. Why are they bringing back those? Why are they ripping the scab off the Civil War again?
I don't know.
It's
not us. I'm not bringing it up. McDonnell's doing
I'll tell you why.
And you're defending
it. It's become they dislike, and a lot of people are coming to detest their government, Chris. That's why.
The North.
No, not the North. The government of the United States.
But they like their city. They like their governments.
They like their state governments, and they don't like their national governments.
But there's a way to do that.
The Union.
Now, I don't know if they want to go that far, but quite frankly, there's a real feeling out there of people that they do not like this government. It's too big, too oppressive.
Who was right in the Civil War?
Wait a sec.
Who was right in the Civil War? I think, in a way, both sides were right. I think Lincoln had a right to save the Union. I think they had a right to go free. People, it was unsettled.
So Robert E. Lee was right to join the South.
Of course he
was right to fight that war.
Robert E. Lee was right to defend his fellow folks in the state.
But if he had said, I'm not going to fight, maybe there wouldn't have been a Civil War. Maybe if the guys like him had stood up and said, we're not going to fight this, we're sticking with the Union.
Chris, you understand Virginia?
If you'd listened to Sam Houston, you wouldn't have had that war.
Virginia had to lie down and let them march over Virginia. They weren't going to do it.
I'm sorry, it's Karen.
That's okay. Now, I want to go back to your other point, because there's something very disturbing happening in this country when you do have leaders, Republican leaders, using certain phrases that are code phrases, not even just about the Civil War, but again, designed to have a very specific impact in inflaming the base, in motivating the base, rather than...
But Pat doesn't need code. Pat's arguing he doesn't need any deceit here. Well, he thinks the federal union was maybe equally right to the South.
But wait a second.
I think they both have a moral position.
America is in a very difficult time right now. You can't count on the church. You can't count on corporations like Toyota, which are going to put profits over people. The church is going to protect priests over children. Okay. We've got our government is broken.
You want to get into that too?
No, but I want to say that inflaming, then lighting a match and setting it on the gasoline is not the thing to do, Pat. It's terribly irresponsible. We have death threats going on.
Well, let me ask you a question.
You got all this. You got control of everything in your
Governor McDonnell says in his defense, as a booster of his state, that he was going to boost tourism by having Confederate History Month. Would any African Americans go to Virginia to celebrate the Confederacy? I'm just asking. Or is it just aimed at white people?
You know, but here's the
I'm asking the question. Can you answer this question?
I will answer the question. I think many African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and white Americans would you go as a white American? Would you go celebrate the Confederacy?
Well, not
I think that's why it does a disservice.
But I do find that history very interesting, even fascinating.
But do you celebrate slavery in the Confederacy?
Chris, would you go to? I mean, these reenactments. They have
my sons have been in reenactments.
Well, there are tremendous things these people have.
Karen.
Yeah.
Are you angry about Pat's position here?
Of course I am.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not angry about her.
Because, Pat, you're so even-hearted. You think the Civil War, you know, Mets and Mets, so they had both sides.
Think we have to
You would have been a
You don't
referee.
think Robert E. Lee, her ancestor,
I think Robert
was
E. Lee
honorable?
has gotten a good press.
I think he did the wrong thing. He was on the wrong side.
Cohen of Memphis is going to reopen this
better
issue.
press than Sherman.
Compares the Tea Party movement to the KKK. We got more of this coming here. But without the robes and the hoods, I think we're going to have more of this argument.